Lesson 11. Out of unity you arise. The return to unity is your destiny. The mind discovers the path of return while the heart provides the key to each stage along the way. Dear friend, the 7 commandments of the Frater Unitatis. We are not going to launch into an exegesis of the texts concerning the Dharma. Several years after the year 1600, certain writings appeared in France and Germany on this subject. They were written in German, Latin and French. The authentic texts on this subject were actually written by individuals who had an inner contact between the little self and the great self. Therefore the texts of the Pharma are emanations of the invisible, undoubtedly written in order to attract beings in a material way to the path of inner realization. As a matter of fact, an individual who has re-established his own inner contact automatically becomes a member of the invisible order. Therefore the commandments below seem very appropriate to sustain you in your work of personal realization. The author's name or the date of the publishing matter very little. The important point is that you can verify their use and truthfulness for yourself as your inner walls start dissolving. 1. You won't serve God and Mammon if you are of service. You cannot be at once in the service of God, the universal principles, and in the service of Mammon, which is the symbol for the energy of money. We explain as follows: we should not ignore the role of money, but we should seek the most perfect financial independence and the most complete disinterestedness. If you have acquired some financial ease through inheritance and work, it is yours and you are responsible for it. You should not squander your good. Always remember that wealth is the symbol of a powerful energy of the invisible which appears at level 4 along with duality. Its passive aspect is at the origin of all earthly material wealth. Its active aspect is the food of esoteric knowledge. Level 9 transmits this energy as the level of the metal called silver, money. Its role is to help in the functioning of the material world, but under this aspect and within all possible limits it should be excluded from spiritual work. If you are entrusted with an important part of this energy, it is because you are the guardian and only master of its use. If such is your case, it should authorize you particularly to work on the esoteric path without financial compensation. If your means of material existence depends on an income obtained through esoteric knowledge, you are no longer neutral or free, and consequently you cannot be a recognized servant. If you examine the methods used by those who practice or have practiced authentic esoteric disciplines, you can verify that this rule has been respected. The monks of yesteryears worked the earth to obtain their own subsidy. Today, any esoteric An, or Yui, 11v1 Arjun greater, Nani, strives to follow this rule and distributes no salary to the individuals who are responsible. Let's specify that this is a point we are fiercely watchful for in the LPN Association. Very often, we see esoteric students commit the following error of discernment: thanks to the powers, I'll have some money with which I can do good. In fact, there is never need of money to help others in their evolution. Material work requires a financial compensation, but help through occult ways, never. 2. You won't sell the gift of God. There is no gift of God, in the literal sense of the word, for this would be contrary to the principle of universal justice. The gifts result from a partial realization of our reintegration during the course of previous incarnations. This somewhat archaic expression, gift of God, would translate today as divine attribute of the inner being, that is, the original attribute which has at this time been recovered. We should not derive any financial profit from it. Whoever sells the gift of God, that is, whoever makes a business out of it, loses it sooner or later. If you are at once a doctor and a mystic healer, the doctor in you, according to the laws of this earth, can make money for his work, but the healer who is in you should heal without saying so, and of course freely. If you are not a doctor but if you have a healing gift, you should not get any money from it. You can accept donations, but you should neither impose them nor claim them. If you are an astrologer, you can get paid for your work of study and calculation. But if you have access to the memories of nature, you cannot get money for this part of the consultation. In summary, We state that work specific to level 10 belongs to the material domain and can be remunerated. That which is given through other levels cannot be exchanged for cash. The borderline, often slim in practice, is actually more a problem of conscience and intuition rather than a problem of rules. These two first commandments are perhaps the most difficult to actually grasp because, in our world, the visible and invisible forces of money are particularly powerful. To explain once more the border which is involved, let's say that a spagyric remedy doesn't necessitate a gift for its making and can therefore be sold. On the other hand, an alchemical remedy which relies on a certain gift for its successful fabrication should in no way be the object of a financial compensation. Remember that on level 4 both the spiritual energies of wealth and the material energies of wealth are created. One is the positive spiritual law of the double law of this level, the other is the negative material. The point is to not confuse them in their use. The function of money doesn't proceed from the spiritual domain and the force of money cannot guide spiritual work. 3. You shall wear your country's costume. The initiate, the one who has genuinely received knowledge, doesn't have to demonstrate his knowledge nor distinguish himself from the world around him by any outer signs. Discretion is his rule. The priest of an outer religion can wear the costume which constitutes a sign for outer recognition. But an adept doesn't have to be distinguished from the layman by his costume. He may wear a ceremonial robe for a prayer, why not, or in a temple, this is allowable. But being anonymous within the crowd is one of the keys to progress. A distinctive costume more or less leads one toward pride, a major obstacle on the path. In addition, this third commandment encompasses a larger scope of meaning relating to morals and manners, the social and political aspects of the nation in which we were born. In its occult interpretation, this commandment means, strive to be in harmony with the egregore of your birth because you can find there what suits you best on this earth, for the degree of evolution in which you find yourself. We can also add, if part of creation has been made invisible to the layman it is by necessity, and whoever wants or begins to contact the invisible should not show it to the layman. 4. If you practice a religion, practice that of your country. You weren't born randomly in any country. Thus, you should as much as possible conform to the rules of your country. A lot of people are attracted to philosophies, religions and beliefs existing in countries quite distant from their birthplace. There are two main reasons for this. First, it comes from the somewhat mysterious ever-attractiveness exerted by the distant unknown. The second, more subtle, is the attraction exerted on us by things which have been ours in a near or distant past. From the past, we should only keep the constructive aspect and use that which we acquired as a stepping stone for future progress. The love of the past should not become an obstacle in the conquest of the future toward which we are less attracted because it still belongs to the domain of the unknown. Through this fourth commandment, at this point in the class, we should beware not to become a victim because we ignore the inversion of man's psychic forces during the initiation of the nadir. Before this initiation, man involves, after this initiation man evolves. Before the initiation, a man born in a country of solar religion is attracted to the countries of lunar religions because he is descending the levels. After the passage of the nadir, things are reversed. A man, regardless of his birthplace, is tempted to follow the lunar first and then the solar order. Remember that we can be guided or enlightened in our choices if we carefully observe the symbols which rule the various religions of this world. Obviously, whoever has penetrated the esoteric path is under no obligation to follow and even less to submit to an exoteric religion. If you wish to do so, you can practice a religion but do not give your allegiance to it. Submission to a religion invariably leads to intolerance and a narrowing of your point of view. In fact, any adept on the esoteric path should know that there are only two churches, the Church of Peter and that of John. The first includes all the religions and sects of the world, it is the outer church. The other includes all the esoteric movements, it is the inner church. Whoever is admitted into the inner church no longer has any interest in remaining with the first one. The teaching of the churches of Peter is dogmatic, and none of these churches grant any inner freedom. On the other hand, inner freedom is the goal of John's church. Undoubtedly, religions are based on sacred texts which can be excellent subjects for meditation. But it is said that the spirit vivifies and the letter kills, and we see outer religions take these texts literally because they no longer have the esoteric keys to penetrate them. In fact, the genuine religion, in the sense of religia, which means to link, to join, to reunite, aims at creating a link between man of earth and the structures of his higher self. For all practical purposes, we wish to specify that if you disagree with the customs of your country, you may want to provoke an evolution but no revolution. Somehow this fourth commandment is also a commandment to wait. That is, as the original functions awaken within us, we should not use them to move the society around, nor the politics, religion, or the philosophy of our country. We should wait until our mission is revealed to us by the invisible through the channel of our inner master. It will obviously be small and limited at first. In fact, we must learn to serve before we may become maître d' master of the altar. 5. Don't subsidize hospitals or churches. The esoteric interpretation of this commandment is that universal healing belongs to the domain of the occult, of the invisible. A mystic living up to his name should remedy the cause of the disease himself, and he doesn't need a hospital for this. This doesn't mean that the adept should do nothing in this domain. Paracelsus, for instance, very much contributed to the development of the pharmacopoeia. The adept has the right and the duty to push therapies towards spiritual aspects, therefore he shouldn't support systems which result from an essentially materialistic medicine. This commandment may seem shocking if we take it literally. But didn't an initiate claim, "Render to Caesar that which belongs to Caesar"? In this context, Caesar symbolizes the material physical world. A profound interpretation of this commandment would be that Caesar still needs these things in order to, unconsciously, prepare himself further. Concerning the initiate, he should not fall into the trap of doing the material work of Caesar, a work that should be left to those who cannot yet labor for their conscious growth. If we take their tasks away from them, we also take their possibility of becoming the son of their deeds. At a more subtle level, we could interpret this fifth commandment as follows: we should not use the gifts issued from initiation for the material aspects of life. These gifts should be reserved only to help one achieve his growth. If healing somebody helps his growth, it is granted. If healing cannot take place, we have to go beyond the current concept of death which results from materialism, and only remember that which is taught through inner experience, that is, that death is only a change of kingdom. 6. Do not demonstrate the doctrines through miracles. In the heat of the first realizations, many students attempted to present metaphysical certainties to their parents and friends by means of occult operations which seem to have miraculous characteristics, to a layman. This is a very serious error. Not only do you not help anyone this way, but moreover it is harmful to them. Inner metaphysical certainty is only acquired individually. No one has the right to provide certainty to anyone else. As a matter of fact, the only thing you can provide is the means to access certainty. In addition, possessing metaphysical certainty implies its counterpart of responsibility. Consequently, we shouldn't take away the privilege of ignorance from those who could not bear knowledge, because during the great passage when they'll judge themselves, they won't be able to tell their own conscience, "I did not know." Knowledge gives freedom but also its counterpart of responsibility. The sixth commandment can also be expressed in the following form: do not tear the veil from the temple. As a matter of fact, the veil of the temple is the wall of matter separating the two kinds of consciousness. We can teach each one the use of the trumpets of Jericho, which is to destroy the walls, but we have absolutely no right to reveal the marvels of the powers of the celestial Jerusalem. Each one has to discover them on his own. It is important to understand that initiation leads one to his own revelation, and this revelation is the only one for him. Discussing someone else's revelation may perhaps give us a hint of what ours may be, but in the case of their divergence, Our own revelation alone should count for us. There are in this world as many revelations as there are beings, because even though all the beings are equivalent to start with, they all differ during involution and devolution. Be free in spirit to prepare yourself to receive your own revelation. Do not forget 3 pitfalls which are very difficult to avoid if you make a demonstration: the pride of the operator and exaggerated gratitude from the receivers, which, in a way, is equivalent to a salary. Do not sell the gift of God. The risk of becoming overwhelmed with healing requests or miracles which you cannot satisfy for many reasons, material as well as esoteric. This may cause serious problems. 7. You shall have neither master nor servant. Human brotherhood doesn't require master or slave. Whoever presents himself at the gate of the temple is at once the servant of the Eternal and the prodigal son of the return. The recognized son of the Eternal cannot accept a master of this world. He may only accept a pilot for the journey on the cosmic sea. Inner freedom is a condition essential to the opening of the gate of the temple. Man's growth is to start with the slave that we are at the 0 point of the journey, in order to realize our becoming a free infinite. We should therefore exert our freedom, and this is often more uncomfortable than to take refuge in the protection of a master or pseudo-master. Everything we just mentioned is only an indication, a basic key that each of you should adapt to his own lock. Here, as with other lessons, we provide a work support, but each one of you should build his own personal temple through his own efforts. However, it is good to remember 2 items as long as the inner contact is not solidly established. To act in our world, we should examine the facts in light of reason without becoming a slave to reason. In the search for spiritual inspiration, only level 6, the level of the heart, can bring us directly to the resonances we need. Oratory work. When we work in the oratory, it is always useful to understand what we are doing. In the beginning of this class, we gave only a few indications to help you with this work, but without explaining the reasons for it, because a certain amount of practical knowledge is necessary to start with. We are adding complementary information below. Energy, for energies are omnipresent in man: fire, air, water, earth. Fire and air concern man's spiritual part, the purifying element of which is fire. This energy is present in the air we breathe. The air of the atmosphere is only the support. Deep breathing outside in the countryside, and in addition the square breathing exercise, aim at reinforcing the element fire and thus improve our psyche. Earth and water concern the material side of our being, the purifying element of which is water. This energy uses ordinary water as a support. This element is most concentrated in the rainwater which has just been gathered. We can, if we are certain of its quality, drink a glass of it before our oratory work. In addition, as we already mentioned, it is useful to concentrate on the purifying power of water when you are having a shower. Candles. The 2 lit candles in the oratory symbolize the duality of the subtle energy in the finite world. They also symbolize the 2 columns of the temple gate. But if we undertake a work concerning the unitary levels 1, 2 and 3, we only light 1 candle. Some schools advise, whenever possible, to light the fire in the oratory from the solar fire. With the help of a magnifying glass, ignite a piece of paper which you use to light one of the 2 candles, which in turn serve to light the other one. Never extinguish the candles by blowing on them. Breath, a symbol of the creation of life, should not destroy fire, the symbol of the energy of life. Mirror, concerning the mirror which lies between the 2 candles, it is for us the symbol of the gate of the temple in our oratory. To pass through, the mirror is to symbolically enter the temple. Incense, you can personally choose the incense. It has a purifying power on the psychic environment. As you advance, you may verify that certain spontaneous spiritual contacts provoke a smell of incense in your environment. At that moment, strive to obtain mental voidness. Closing. After each oratory session, do not forget the word or the closing gesture. Its role is to replace us or reframe us in the physical world which is ours. As a matter of fact, in the same way, it is during our passage into this world, level 10, that the true evolutionary work takes place. Proposed exercise, concentration on the heart center. It is necessary, in order to progress on the esoteric path, to be in harmony with our environment and to be a being of heart. We can provoke this state more easily by working on level 6. Start as usual. Light 3 candles in front of the mirror. The center one should be higher than the other 2. These 3 candles symbolize the Trinity of consciousness on that level. Place the hexagram, the 2 reversed triangles on the hexagon, in front of you and draw a central point. Concentrate on this point and strive to sense your heart there. It is an activation of the heart center. Also sense that the fire triangle of the hexagram brings universal love into our heart. Meditate. Get up and perform the closing gesture or say the closing word. Then note the possible observations. Ora et labora. The Philosophers of Nature. Appendix. Appendix-1. The worlds and the veils. Appendix-1. The worlds and the veils. The world of the earth possesses a unitary state of consciousness for the sole reason that there is only one space-time in this world. In the solar, levels 4, 5, 6, and lunar, levels 7, 8, 9, worlds, man is simultaneously aware of 3 space-times, at least toward the end of his stay in one of these 2 worlds. Thus, how accurately we interpret on this world or level, the experiences or contacts with these other worlds is important. On the other hand, in the highest world, levels 1, 2, 3, space-time no longer exists and the expression of consciousness becomes unitary. As we saw on the chart of Lesson 3, there are veils separating these worlds, the veil of the abyss, the veil of the second death and the veil of birth and death. These veils are similar in a sense but at different levels. Through the veil of the abyss, the being leaves the world of eternity for the finite world. He temporarily loses his supreme state. Through the veil of the second death, the being passes from the solar world, the world of light, to the lunar world, the much heavier world of water. Through the veil of birth and death, the passage into our world, through birth, is the true death because at that moment the new prison of flesh neutralizes all the mental elements resulting from the previous incarnation. At birth, the child progressively loses the perception of what lies beyond this veil. This veil is opaque to the layman but not as rigid as we may think. In fact, if we could treat the blood of the newborn child alchemically, he would keep this perception. It is the same for the adult, at least partially. If we use this particular method or other ones, breathing, magical techniques. Moreover, you automatically recover this perception during astral projection or at death because it is the physical body's material density which blots out the more subtle density of the astral. When the physical body leaves the intermediary bodies, 9 to 4, we have at once a vision of the levels just above ours, 9 or 9 and 8 or 9 and 7 according to the degree of evolution. At the time of terrestrial death, the physical body is destroyed which liberates the other bodies, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. At the second death, the lunar bodies are destroyed, and this liberates the other bodies, 6, 5, 4. The result is an astral cadaver. These astral cadavers are precisely what are used in spiritist and mediumistic practices, and their contact is not without danger. We believe that the only contact the astral or its entities is to go there or to be elevated in consciousness.